What made Angelina Jolie furious and walk off the Jimmy Kimmel Live stage? It seemed like just another ordinary interview. But no one expected it to become the epicenter of a media storm. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The Jimmy Kimmel Live stage that night was nothing short of a cheap circus. The glaring lights beamed down on Angelina Jolie, as if trying to peel away every layer of pride on her face. She walked to the guest chair with the poise of an exiled queen, a form-fitting black dress, razor-sharp eyes, and an aura not of a movie star but of a woman all too familiar with media traps, yet stepping in as if she controlled everything. Jimmy Kimmel leaned toward her, a smirking smile, his eyes glinting with the confidence of someone who thinks he's Hollywood's funniest heartbeat. He thought he was running the show, but he didn't know the stage tonight wouldn't follow the script. He started his warm-up with a syrupy tone, feigning interest as he mentioned Jolie's new film, a drama about a woman leading a refugee resettlement effort. "This movie must have made you cry a lot, huh?" he asked, smiling but with eyes betraying a polite mockery, a mix of sarcasm and pity. Jolie leaned slightly, her voice low and hard as forged steel. "I don't cry," she said. "The people I met, those who fled their homes, survived wars and refugee camps, they don't have time to cry. They fight to live, not to win an Oscar." The studio froze for a few seconds. No one laughed. No more eager applause. The air shifted from humorous to heavy as lead. A few weak claps echoed, unsure if from empathy or awkwardness, but Jimmy couldn't handle the serious vibe for more than 5 seconds. He smirked, pivoting fast like a swerving driver. "All right, enough sad stuff, give us some drama," he guffawed. "You're busy saving humanity, but what about romance? Anyone making your heart flutter?" The audience roared with laughter, clapping like zoo monkeys, waiting for a TMZ-style answer. Jolie tilted her head, her eyes like daggers ready to hurl him into a pit. "Jimmy, I'm here to talk about the film," she said, her voice cold as stone. "Want drama? Watch Netflix. I'm not selling my personal life here." The audience gasped, half laughing, half shocked. Some whispered, wondering if this was real or staged. Backstage, Lena, Jolie's assistant, glared at Tom, the producer, who was grinning like he'd hit the jackpot in the control room. She'd warned him not to poke the hornet's nest, but Tom, eyes glued to skyrocketing Twitter metrics, signaled, "Keep rolling." Lena muttered, "You're asking for trouble, idiot." Jimmy, fearless, went dirtier. "Come on, Angelina, don't be so serious," he bellowed, grabbing a prop, a sparkly plastic wand like a kid's toy pretending to be Maleficent's scepter. "Be a fairy godmother, cast a spell on the audience." He waved the wand, winking like a clown at a birthday party, making the audience howl and clap frantically. The band chimed in with a cheesy tune, turning the stage into a trashy comedy skit. This was Tom's dream, a viral clip costing pennies to produce. Jolie sat motionless, her eyes burning as if ready to incinerate the stage. "Are you kidding me?" she said, her voice low but sharp as a cleaver. "Put that toy away, Jimmy, unless you want me to use it to teach you how to act like an adult." The band flinched, the drummer missing a beat. The audience's laughter vanished, replaced by anxious murmurs. Jimmy tried to salvage it, tossing the wand on the desk, laughing like his jaw was stuck. "No magic today." But the joke landed like a pebble in a deep well, met with silence. The stage lights scorched. Jolie leaned forward, hands clasped tightly, her voice like an arrow shot from a bow. "I came here to talk about people struggling to survive," she said, each word like a blow. "You want comedy? Call a professional clown. I'm not here to dance for your ratings." Her words were like a bomb, detonating the entire studio. Some audience members clapped wildly, eyes gleaming, while others whistled, craving cheap drama. A girl in the front row held up her phone to record, her face stunned. A guy in the back yelled, "Go off, Angelina." But another voice shouted, "Chill out, sis." The room split, like a Roman Colosseum. Jimmy tapped the desk, his smile now a crooked line. He was used to running the show, but Jolie was shredding the script. "We just want the audience to have fun," he said, pointing to the crowd, his voice slightly high-pitched. They love you, Angelina." The audience roared, half cheering her, half backing him, the noise crashing like waves. But Jolie didn't flinch, her eyes locked on him. "Fun? By turning me into a clown?" she jabbed, her voice soft but piercing like a needle. "The audience isn't stupid, Jimmy. They know what's real, and you're selling fake." The stage lights burned, casting her shadow on the giant screen, her proud figure in the black dress, eyes like a blade ready to slice through any nonsense. Jimmy Kimmel, his smile warped like he'd been doused with cold water, tried to regain composure, fingers tapping the desk, a sign of an MC losing control. The audience, smelling drama, began murmuring, phones raised, ready to capture every second of this battle. Jimmy, realizing he was being outplayed, switched tactics. He leaned back, voice feigning friendliness. "Angelina, you're intense," he said, forcing a laugh to ease the tension. "But I mean, you travel the world, work with UNHCR, meet tons of amazing people. Isn't there ever a moment, a little fun? Tell us, like, have you ever danced with someone in a refugee camp?" The audience chuckled. A few clapped, thinking this was her chance to lighten up. Jolie didn't take the bait. Her lips curled, but it wasn't a smile, it was a sardonic smirk. "Danced," she repeated, her voice low like a cut. "Jimmy, while you're here chasing laughs, there are people sleeping on the ground, not knowing how they'll survive tomorrow. You want fun? Go ask them how they dance." Her words swept through the room like a cold wind, snuffing out the laughter. A group of audience members clapped loudly, eyes bright with admiration for her candor. But another corner whistled, yelling, "Just have fun, Angelina." The divide grew sharper, as if the stage had been cleaved in two. Jimmy, feeling the pressure, tried to hold his ground. "Hey, I get it," he said, raising his hands as if to calm things. "But this is an entertainment show, Angelina. The audience wants to see you, the real you, not just the activist, right?" He tilted his head, his smile coaxing the crowd for support. A few shouted in agreement, but Jolie's eyes didn't leave him, as if she were seeing through his glitzy facade. "The real me?" she asked, her voice low but sharp as a drill. "You think the real me is dancing for your ratings? I'm real when I stand with kids who've lost their homes, not when I'm holding a plastic wand for laughs." The audience erupted, some standing to applaud, moved by her sincerity. A young girl in the front row, eyes sparkling, recorded the moment, whispering to her friend, "She's so badass." But another group in the back booed, shouting, "Come on, tell a fun story." The band, flustered, tried to jump in with an upbeat tune, but it felt as out of place as a trumpet at a funeral. The stage lights shifted to a red hue, as if mirroring the fire flaring between the two. Jolie didn't stop. She leaned forward, hands gripping the chair, her voice like a razor-sharp blade. "What do you know about real Jimmy?" she said, each word like a bullet. "You sit here under these lights, selling cheap jokes, while out there people are fighting to see another day. You want me to be fun? Let me talk about them, not the drama you think the audience needs." Her words were a punch, silencing the audience for a moment before it erupted again, half cheering, half booing, the shouts drowning the stage. Jimmy, face flushed, tried to stay calm, but his tapping fingers betrayed him. "Angelina, you're misunderstanding," he said, voice higher than usual. "We just want people to see another side of you, like a mom, a star. The audience loves that." He pointed to the crowd, seeking rescue. Some clapped, but the noise was now a chaotic mess, beyond anyone's control. Jolie shook her head, her eyes as if burning through his script. "The audience loves the truth," she said, slow but sharp. "You're trying to sell them a circus, and I'm not your clown." The audience was restless, phones raised high, capturing every moment. Jolie's words were a flame, challenging the entire entertainment machine. The stage seemed to shrink, the pressure crushing Jimmy, who was scrambling to regain control. Jimmy took a breath, his voice rising as if trying to shout over the storm. "Angelina, you're right. Truth matters," he said, raising his hands like a peace offering. "But this is an entertainment show. You're a star. The audience wants to see you shine. You know, do something fun. You've played superheroes on screen, right? Give them a superhero moment." He winked, trying to rally the crowd, some clapping and cheering, thinking Jolie might relent. But her gaze was a bullet, piercing through his fake charm. Jolie stood up, slowly, like a warrior entering the final round. "Superhero?" she asked, her voice low like thunder, each word a slash. "You think I need a cape to prove something? I've seen single mothers in refugee camps raising kids on nothing but hope. They're the superheroes, Jimmy, not me sitting here for you to turn into a sideshow." The room exploded, half the audience standing to cheer and shout her name, the other half booing, demanding she stop preaching. A guy in the middle row raised his phone, yelling, "Keep going, Angelina," but a woman nearby snapped back, "Sit down, this is a fun show." Jimmy, now out of patience, stood up, a rare move breaking an MC's golden rule. "Listen, Angelina," he said, voice trembling but trying to sound tough. "This is my stage, and the audience wants to see you, not a speech about the world. They paid to laugh, to have fun." He pointed to the crowd, fishing for support, and some cheered and clapped, but the noise was now a whirlwind uncontrollable. Jolie didn't blink, stepping closer, narrowing the gap between them. "Paid to laugh?" she echoed, her voice dripping with sarcasm like a slicing knife. "You think they're dumb enough to only want laughs? They want the truth, Jimmy, not the clown show you're trying to shove down their throats." The audience went wild, the shouts echoing through the studio. A young girl in the front row burst into tears, holding up a "We love you, Angelina" sign. A guy in the far corner threw a paper cup, yelling, "Just do the act." The band, in a panic, tried to cut in with an upbeat tune, but it was as out of place as a siren in a storm. The stage lights flickered, as if the studio itself was trembling under Jolie's power. She continued, her voice now like a river, powerful but cold. "I've walked through places you only see on the news," she said, her eyes sweeping the audience, as if reaching for each person. "People who've lost everything, but still rise. What do you want me to do? Dance so you can sell ads? I'm not your puppet, Jimmy." Jimmy, face red as a tomato, tried to regain control. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Angelina," he snapped, pointing at her, voice shrill. "This is TV, not a UN summit. The audience wants to see you happy, not like this." He waved his arms, seeking the crowd's support, but got only a chaotic jumble of noise. Jolie shook her head, her gaze like an arrow piercing him. "Happy," she said, voice low but sharp as a blade. "You don't know what happy is, Jimmy. Happy is when a refugee child smiles for the first time in years. You want me to perform that for your ratings? Keep dreaming." The stage was now a steel forge, the air simmering, every glance and sound like a spark ready to ignite. Angelina Jolie stood tall, her black dress like armor, eyes blazing as if to burn through Hollywood's fake charade. The audience, like a crowd in an ancient arena, roared endlessly. Jimmy Kimmel, face flushed, stood opposite, hands gripping the desk's edge, his trademark smile now a warped streak. The stage lights flickered like the pulse of a cornered beast. Jimmy, feeling the crowd's pressure and Jolie's razor-sharp stare, tried a final blow to save the show. He cleared his throat, voice shaky but feigning control. "Angelina, I respect your passion," he said, raising his hands as if to calm the waves, "but you're a global icon. The audience wants to see you more relatable, like a friend, a mom. Tell us something fun, like taking your kids for ice cream." Jolie didn't budge, her gaze like a spear through Jimmy's glossy facade. "Ice cream?" she asked, voice slow, as if savoring the question's absurdity. "While you ask me about ice cream, millions don't have a single meal. You want a fun story? I'll give you one. I met a mother in Sudan, raising 5 kids in a tent. No clean water." She still smiled, because her kids were alive. "That's joy, Jimmy, not what you want me to perform here." Her words were a whirlwind, sweeping away any lingering laughter. Half the room leapt to their feet, clapping like thunder, eyes shining with admiration, but another corner shouted, "Enough, Angelina, do something fun." A man threw a plastic cup onto the stage, missing by a mile, prompting security to edge closer. Jimmy, now a cornered animal, lashed out. "You're turning this into a political soapbox," he snapped, pointing at her, voice cracking high. "The audience didn't come here for a lecture, Angelina. They want to see you, the real you, not some savior goddess." He flailed his arms, seeking the crowd's backing, and some cheered and clapped. But the noise was now a storm beyond control. Jolie took another step, closing the gap, her eyes as if ready to torch the stage. "Goddess?" she asked, voice low like thunder before a storm. I don't need a crown, Jimmy. I just need you to stop turning real stories into jokes. The audience isn't a bunch of idiots. They know what's real and what's the garbage you're trying to sell. Jolie, unfazed, pressed on, her voice now like a glacial river, cold but unstoppable. I've seen people who've lost everything, she said, her eyes scanning the audience, as if pulling them into her world. They don't need me to dance to feel hope. They need us to tell their stories, not turn them into ads for you. Who do you want me to be, Jimmy? A puppet for your ratings? Sorry, I'm busy doing real work. Jimmy Kimmel, his face now ashen, hands clinging to the desk, eyes wavering between anger and panic. The stage lights blazed red, like blood spilling in the final line of this battle. Jimmy, like a boxer backed into a corner, took a deep breath, his voice hissing like a string about to snap. Angelina, enough, he yelled, pointing straight at her, no longer trying to fake friendliness. This is my show, and the audience didn't come to hear you preach. They want to see you, the star Angelina Jolie, not some missionary. He waved his arms as if pulling the entire room to his side. Some audience members roared in support, clapping loudly, but the noise was now a monstrous beast, swallowing everything. A guy in the back threw another plastic cup, hitting the stage's edge, making security tense and step closer. Jolie didn't back down. She stood tall, her gaze like a chilling blade, cutting through Jimmy's desperation. "Your show?" she asked, voice low like an undercurrent, each syllable a hammer blow. "You think this stage is yours? It belongs to the people watching, who deserve to hear the truth, not the garbage you're trying to shove into their heads. I'm not here to be your star, Jimmy. I'm here to speak for those without a voice." Her words ignited like a blaze, torching his every trick. Half the room leapt to their feet, chanting her name, raising phones to record what felt like a historic moment. But another corner screamed, "Go home, Angelina." A young girl in the front row cried, hugging her friend, whispering, "She's right." Backstage, Lena looked ready to storm the stage, her eyes like lasers aimed at Tom in the control room. "He's killed himself," she growled, hands clenched until her knuckles popped. Tom, face now waxy, yelled into his mic, "Keep rolling, don't stop." The live stream was shattering records, but he started to tremble, realizing the show had spiraled beyond control. The stage manager, sweating buckets, signaled the band to play something to calm things, but the band stood frozen, unsure what to do. The director, through the earpiece, shouted, "Let it run." The studio was a ticking bomb, one spark from exploding. Jimmy, with nothing left to lose, played his final card. "You're disrespecting the audience," he screamed, pointing at the crowd, voice shattering like glass. "They came to have fun, to see you smile, not to be judged by you. Who do you think you are, Angelina?" He stepped forward, closing the gap as if to overwhelm her with his presence. But Jolie didn't flinch, her eyes a storm ready to sweep everything away. "I'm someone who doesn't sell my soul for ratings," she replied, her voice a final slash. "You want me to smile? I smile when refugees find a home. You want me to be happy? I'm happy when the world hears their stories. But stand here and play your fool? Not in a million years, Jimmy." Security, now at the stage's edge, moved closer, hands raised as if to intervene. Lena rushed forward, blocking them, her voice like thunder. "Don't you dare touch her." Jolie, sensing the chaos, raised a hand, signaling Lena to stay calm. She turned back, giving Jimmy one last look, her gaze as if searing her words into him. "I've said enough," she declared, her voice ringing like a final bell. "You want this stage? Keep it, but don't expect me to stand here as your plaything." She turned, walking away, each step a manifesto, her proud presence unshakable. The audience roared, the noise threatening to tear the studio apart. A group of girls in the front row jumped up, clapping, sobbing. A guy in the back threw a water bottle, intercepted by security. The band, finally stopping, stood dazed as if they'd witnessed an earthquake. The stage lights dimmed, as if chasing Jolie's shadow as she left. Jimmy stood frozen, face pale, trying to speak. "Well, that was a night to remember, huh?" But his voice faltered, a whisper in a gale. The audience laughed sparsely, but the weak chuckles were drowned by the lingering shouts calling her name. Backstage, Lena hurried after Jolie, her eyes a mix of pride and worry. "You did it," she said, voice trembling. Jolie didn't respond, only nodded, her gaze distant, as if she'd left the entire world behind. Tom in the control room slumped into his chair, hands clutching his head, realizing this drama was both a goldmine and a disaster. The camera crew kept rolling, though the studio now resembled a battlefield after a war. The stage was a ravaged war zone, invisible smoke still lingering after Angelina Jolie's exit. The stage lights dimmed, as if the studio itself was panting, exhausted from the storm. The audience, like a crowd that had just witnessed an explosion, remained restless, murmurs mixing with shouts of Jolie's name. Some held up phones, trying to capture the final seconds of the drama, while others yelled, demanding the show go on. Jimmy Kimmel, standing alone at the center, face white as paper, eyes darting as if searching for an escape. His trademark smile was now a cracked facade, unable to hide his unease. Jimmy cleared his throat, clinging to his MC role. "Well, folks, that was quite an energetic night, huh?" he said, voice faltering like an out-of-tune string. He raised a hand, signaling the band, but the sound came out disjointed, like a street band's horn. A few audience members forced a laugh, but most were still buzzing, a girl in the front row shouting, "Angelina was right." A guy in the far corner threw another plastic cup, blocked by security, stirring the crowd even more. Jimmy, realizing he couldn't regain control, signaled the stage crew to cut to commercial, but his eyes were those of someone who just lost a high-stakes game. Backstage, Lena hurried after Jolie, her heels clacking hard on the wooden floor. She found Jolie in the green room, standing before a mirror, eyes distant, as if peering into another world. "You did it," Lena said, voice shaky, both proud and anxious. They didn't see that coming. Jolie turned, giving a slight nod, lips pressed tight. "I only said what needed to be said," she replied, voice low but firm, as if shedding a heavy burden. Lena nodded, lightly touching her shoulder. "Shiloh just texted," Lena said, handing over the phone. "She says you're her hero." Jolie read the message, a rare smile flickering, but her eyes remained heavy, as if knowing this battle was just the beginning. In the control room, Tom slumped into his chair, hands clutching his head, as if he'd just run a marathon. The screens in front of him blazed with metrics. Online viewership was skyrocketing, but his eyes no longer held smugness. "She's crazy," he muttered, turning to the director. "How do we handle this?" The director, face taut as a guitar string, yelled into the mic, "Cut to commercial now." But a lighting tech, standing quietly in the corner, shook his head, whispering to a colleague, "She's right, this show's sometimes just trash." The whisper was small, but it spread like an undercurrent through the crew. The audience, interrupted by the commercial, still didn't take their eyes off the stage. A group of young girls in the front row hugged each other, eyes red, talking about how Jolie stood up for the voiceless. "She's not afraid of anyone," one said, voice trembling. But in another corner a middle-aged man grumbled, "She's overdoing it. Just smile and be done." Arguments broke out, security stepping in to pull two shouting audience members outside. The studio's atmosphere was like a boiling pot, not cooling down. Outside the studio, a young fan in the crowd clutched a sign reading, "Angelina, you're my hero." The girl, eyes shining, told her friend, "I saw her walk out looking like a queen. I shouted her name and she nodded at me." The story spread fast, like a small flame in the wind, inspiring those who witnessed it. But online the drama had exploded. Short clips from audience phones went viral, captioned, "Angelina destroys Jimmy Kimmel, and she's too cool," mixed with "she ruined their show." Jimmy, back on stage after the commercial, tried to move on with the next guest, a lesser-known comedian, but the audience was distracted, some leaving their seats to discuss Jolie outside. Jimmy, voice shaky, tried a joke. "Well, let's hope this guest doesn't make me cry." But the laughter was sparse, like wind blowing through a desert. He looked at the audience, eyes pleading for rescue, but got only indifferent faces or ones glued to phones, sharing Jolie's clips. In the car, Jolie sat silently, staring out the window as Los Angeles's lights streaked by like falling stars. Lena beside her checked her phone, reading a Twitter comment aloud, "Angelina just taught Hollywood a lesson." Jolie didn't respond, only sighed softly, as if stepping out of an unwanted battle. "Let them say what they want," she said, voice low, almost a whisper. As long as someone hears the real story. Lena nodded, her eyes saying you did it. Backstage, the production team buzzed like a swarm of bees, scrambling to save the show. Tom, now like a lost soul, argued with the director. We need an apology or something. But the director shook his head. She won. Let it be, don't add fuel. A sound tech, standing quietly, whispered to a colleague. It's been a while since I saw someone speak truth like that. The small remark was like a stone dropped in a lake, rippling through the crew. The Jimmy Kimmel Live stage had closed, but the fire Angelina Jolie ignited still raged outside the studio. Social media was a nuclear reactor, exploding with posts, video clips and memes about her walking off. Posts flew like bullets. One account wrote, Angelina just showed the world how to say no to entertainment trash. Another fired back, she overdid it, wrecking their show just to act superior. A short clip from the front row, capturing Jolie's proud exit, hit millions of views in hours, with comments like, look at her eyes like she's burning the whole studio down. But there were mocking voices too. Drama queen is back. Everyone steer clear. The online battle was sharply divided. The online arena mirrored the polarized divide in the studio audience. The media quickly pounced. Variety published a glowing piece. Angelina Jolie turned Jimmy Kimmel Live into a platform for truth, reminding Hollywood of its responsibility. TMZ, true to form, focused on the drama. Jolie flips out, storms off stage, leaves Kimmel stranded. BBC delved deeper, emphasizing her humanitarian message. Jolie's words were a voice for the forgotten, challenging shallow entertainment culture. A young blogger, claiming to be a Jolie fan, posted a lengthy piece on Medium, recounting what she saw outside the studio. I watched her walk out, never looking back, like a warrior after victory. She's real, not fake. The post went viral, inspiring thousands. Jimmy, trying to salvage his image, tweeted at dawn, last night was heated, huh? Thanks Angelina for keeping me on my toes. Who's ready for the next episode? But his attempt at humor was like pouring water into hot oil. Half the audience responded with laughing emojis, the other half attacked. On your toes, she crushed you. Or learn to respect your guests, Jimmy. The official Jimmy Kimmel Live account stayed silent, as if the PR team was frantically meeting to handle the crisis. An anonymous insider leaked to Page 6. Jimmy's shaken, but the producers are even more rattled. They didn't expect Jolie to go that hard. Jolie stayed quiet. She left Los Angeles on an early flight, returning to her humanitarian work. An NGO, inspired by her speech, sent a formal invitation. We want you to speak at our upcoming refugee conference. Your voice is a light. Jolie, according to a close source, was considering it, but her priority remained her children and her mission. A viral photo showed her at the airport, wearing dark sunglasses, calm as if last night's drama was a passing breeze. The caption read, "The Queen doesn't need to explain." In the real world, Jolie's impact rippled. A group of New York students, after watching her speech clip, organized a discussion on media responsibility, using Jolie as a model. An older fan, waiting outside the studio that night, told a local paper, "I saw her walk by, eyes strong but sad. She didn't do this for herself, but for those no one hears." The story of the young girl with the Angelina "You're my hero" sign became iconic, shared across forums as a reminder of truth's power. In the entertainment industry, undercurrents stirred. Some talk show hosts, per sources, quietly discussed the incident, wondering if they should be more cautious with guests. A Tonight Show producer was quoted, "Jolie changed the game. Not everyone would dare stand up like her." But there were opposing views, with a TV executive calling her difficult to work with, predicting shows might hesitate to invite her in the future. Still, Jolie's image only grew stronger, a lighthouse in a sea of pretense. Back at the studio, Jimmy Kimmel Live went on, but Jolie's shadow lingered. Subsequent episodes felt more restrained, with Jimmy tossing fewer edgy jokes. A lighting tech, who'd quietly supported Jolie, told a friend, "She made me rethink this job. Maybe we should tell stories that matter." The small comment was like a seed, planted in the minds of those in the industry. Jolie, without looking back, left an indelible mark. In the car before leaving Los Angeles, she gazed out the window, eyes pensive. "They'll forget this drama," she said to Lena, voice almost a whisper to herself. "But if one person remembers what I said, that's enough." Lena nodded, eyes shining. "They'll remember, Angelina. You did it." The story Angelina Jolie kicked off Jimmy Kimmel's show after heated clash reflects a deep conflict between personal authenticity and the pressures of commercial entertainment, a theme highly relevant to American society today, where media and social media culture often prioritize drama over substance. In the story, Jolie refuses to play the clown for ratings, as when she sarcastically tells Jimmy Kimmel, "I'm not here to dance for your ratings," and speaks about refugees to emphasize true value. This act challenges the entertainment system, much like how Americans today face pressure to perform on social media or at work to meet superficial expectations. The audiences divide, with some supporting Jolie and others demanding she be fun, mirrors the polarization in American society, where values like authenticity are often overshadowed by the need for instant entertainment. The lesson is that in modern American life, dare to stand up for your values, as Jolie did when she walked off the stage, despite facing criticism. Don't let pressure from social media or work environments force you to play a false role. Focus on what matters, like how Jolie prioritized refugee stories over Jimmy's jokes. When facing polarization, like the audience in the story, listen and speak your truth, but with respect. Ultimately, as Lena reminded Jolie, if one person remembers, that's enough. Believe that your sincere actions, however small, can inspire and create change. Everyone, hit subscribe to explore more authentic stories like Angelina Jolie's journey. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.